in our imagination, right? So I went to Hogwarts at Universal Studios this past summer. It was fantastic, and talk about a wonderful place to go. People, go, go, go. It was fabulous if you're an HP fan. All right, anyway, let's move on. I'm just trying not to keep talking so long. I'm sorry. Okay, mysticism, which mysticism includes a number of things that are like otherworldly, and this would include magic or questions of the great beyond or any kind of spiritualized material. And people like to read about this stuff, mysticism, why things happen, and just things that can't be explained, because it lets your imagination go. What's wrong with that? Everything doesn't have to be explained. And if you say that you would prefer everything to be explained, then romanticism is probably not your go-to movement, in your personal life. But do you know people like this? Or are your kids a lot like this? They enjoy reading about things that aren't necessarily provable or the absolute truth, so help us God. All right, let's go to the next one. They favored in poetry blank verse and fresher language and bolder figures. I mean, what's wrong with that? Nothing. All right. The idealization of rural life. And this is kind of what I was talking about with the interest in the past. When you sympathize with the past, you're looking at reasons why we should care. Not the stuff that, is horrific, like I said, but this is kind of similar. When you idealize rural life, you're not telling, like, the graphic details of realities, the realities that are happening. So Michael Crichton wrote this book, and it talks about, and I think it's called 1492 or something like that, but he writes this book about these people that find a portal of sorts, and they're able to transfer a wormhole, and they transfer to France in 1400s. And they're all excited. How romantic. We get to go back here. They're pumped about going back there. Well, once they get there, there's a movie based on it too. The book's really great. The movie's okay, but the book's better. Michael Crichton wrote it. But once they get there, like, these two people die from a sword when they arrive in 15th century France. Somebody gets run through, pulverized by a sword immediately because they show up and somebody's riding on a horse, and they just kill them. I mean, that's not the kind of stuff the Romantics really featured, was the brutal realities of the time period. Does this make sense to anybody? Although we'd like to think about, that would be wonderful to live in this time period, and there's nothing wrong with thinking that, but the reality of it is, certainly there are many challenges to going to specific time periods, right? Okay, so idealization means that you make it sound a lot grander than it really is. And one of the really beautiful things they do here in this time period, though, is they take common people that no one ever looked at before. And I want you guys to look at the Solitary Reaper. This is a great example from William Wordsworth. I mean, it's about this impoverished woman who's, for some reason, singing sad tunes and having to work on her own. And she's in this really vulnerable predicament. But he makes her beautiful. He writes this poem about how beautiful she is, when in reality she's in a desperate, dark place, in a drastic situation. But he finds beauty in that. And I'm sorry, I love that. In the world we live in, people, I mean, I love those who can find beauty. Despite, they're not focusing on all the darkness. They're focusing on what can be beautiful, or what can be seen to be beautiful, just depending on perspective, right? All right. So the next one says enthusiasm for the wild, the irregular. Maybe I just love this movement because I'm just a little irregular, I mean, for all of us who don't exactly fit into a cookie cutter life, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Like, you just can't do it. You too might be a lover of this movement and a great reflection of this movement. Anyway, they're grotesque in nature and art. And it's not loving the grotesque because they're grotesque or passing judgment on them like this is awful. But the reason why they like the wild, the irregular, and the grotesque is because they see it as being individualistic. What's wrong with being unique? What's wrong with embracing your uniqueness? And that's just beautiful. And I'm sorry, I know I say this a lot, but it's empowering this movement is very empowering. And can you imagine? Because prior to this time, you really, in every way, even artistically, had to be exactly like everybody else. You have to count the syllables out. You have to talk, these things are okay to talk about, these things aren't okay to talk about. I mean, they find these things that are naturally occurring, and their argument is, hey, if you're born like that, you know, with two noses, that's awesome. Let's write about it, and let's talk about how beautiful it is because you're different. Pause. Okay. Hey, this one's pretty crazy, and I've had only 1 cup of coffee today. I'm just going to say that. It's just the sunshine, that vitamin D, I guess. We'll blame it on that today. Sorry, everybody. All right, look at the next one, unrestrained imagination. And, you know, all I have to say to that is thank God. Thank God. Just have your own internal dialogue there. But how cool is that? The freedom to imagine. All right? I hope, you know what? I hope this empowers people today because this is wonderful. Or maybe if you're that person that this isn't empowering and you don't understand it, maybe with your child or maybe someone that you care about, maybe it'll help you understand them a little bit better, this particular movement. Because not all of us fit into nicely created cookie cutter boxes. You know what I mean? And it can be beautiful, all of it. All of us together can be beautiful. But society often, we like types. We like to be able to nicely place people in categories, and it kind of freaks us out when we can't do that. So as you go to the discussion board, I want you to really think about what I'm talking about here. And whether or not you relate directly to this movement or personally with this movement, I want you to think about how this applies to your life and just the idea behind it. Like in our society, are we still so very exacting on things that are different? You shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't act that way. You shouldn't, you know, what's wrong with that? And I want you to just kind of consider, does this help you understand somebody or relate to somebody a little better? All right, well, that's all I've got. I can keep on talking, and gosh, it's gorgeous out here. So once you do the discussion board, my assignment is, if you're having a nice day like this one, get outside and enjoy the sunshine. Then work on your discussion board post. Have a great rest of the week, you guys. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.